Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Christine. If you're new here, I'm a homeschooling mama of 3 kids and I'm a second generation homeschooler. Today I'm going to be chatting to you about the changes with the new language arts levels from The Good and the Beautiful. Alright guys, I'm really excited to film this video for you today. Before I start, I want to just be clear about something because I do harp on about this curriculum a little bit, so I can imagine people thinking this. This is not sponsored. The Good and the Beautiful, as far as I'm aware, they don't even know exist, okay? This is just a curriculum that I have found and have used over the years with my children, and I have stopped using it at times because of issues, and then I've gone back to it and I've tried different things. But for the most part, we actually use it a lot in our school. And so I wanted to do this video on it because it's been a journey with using their language arts. And I know a few of you have been here for that journey for the whole time since I started making videos about homeschool and homeschooling my son. I started with their preschool curriculum, and now he is in grade 2. And so I just wanted to chat about my thoughts about the new curriculum, share a little bit with you. And also, I have printed everything on my own at home. I live in New Zealand, so the cost of international shipping is eye-wateringly expensive. I did contemplate purchasing the booster books, level A and level B. Actually, I was going to get all 3 levels and have them sent out to me. And then when I looked at the cost of the postage, I was just like, I just cannot justify it. And so I ended up printing it at home. And I'm so glad that I did. So I'm going to show you what I did. I will direct you, if you want specific advice for how to print the Good and the Beautiful curriculum at home, I'm going to link to a blog post that I have written where I've shared step by step what I do, the settings that I use on my computer, and how I make it very cost effective to do. Literally, it costs me barely anything to print stuff at my own home because I purchased a very economical printer and a binding machine several years ago, and they have paid for themselves several times over. So with all that said, this is not sponsored and I have printed everything at home, and I'm going to just chat about level K and level 1. I'm not going to talk about level 2 because it hasn't been released yet. When I'm filming this, it is the end of June, and they said that it should be released by mid-July. So that is not a level that I have access to yet. And also, we are not using that level this year, and I don't have anything to compare it to because I never used the old level 1. So I'm just going to chat about the levels that I have used, the differences between the old and the new, and whether I recommend it, who I recommend it for, that kind of thing. So I think it would be wise to start at the beginning with level K. I have got the level K workbook here, and I will try and do some B-roll footage of the actual inside of this book. But for now, I'm just going to chat about it. I printed this off when it came out, the day it was released, downloaded it and printed it, bound it at home. This is using my Epson EcoTank printer to print. And I just laminate the back and front sheets and spiral bind it. That's the way it works really well for us. And I'm using this course with my 5-year-old daughter. She's 5.5. I've used a few things with her over the last little bit. And actually, I just had a video not long ago about using a Becca with her. I will chat more about what has happened since then and what I'm doing now in my term 3 update video, which will be coming out in the next few weeks, because there's it was a bit of chopping and changing going on there. But for now, this is what she is exclusively using, and it comes with, hang on, I'll get the components. It comes with reading A booster cards, which again, I have printed out at home. And I printed them out because I'm in New Zealand, so we use A4 size instead of US letter size paper. So I printed it out on A5, which is just half of an A4, and then I laminated all of them because I wanted it to be a non-consumable product so that my next daughter can use it when she's old enough. So these are the cards. They came out beautifully. The thing that these are the mini books. I wasn't going to print them. I was going to purchase the physical copies of them, but like I said, it was just so expensive, and so I ended up printing them. Thankfully, there is a group. It's called The Good and the Beautiful Printing Helps. I think it's TGTB Printing Helps if you look for it on Facebook. And there are some very clever women in there who shared exactly how to print this. It seems very overwhelming, but if you follow the instructions exactly, it's actually very easy. Like I did all of these in like a couple of hours, I would say, for levels A and B. So there are 20 books for each level. And so these are the level K ones. And I just printed them on computer paper. They're just little. I did like 4 pages to a sheet and then double-sided and printed all 20 of them out. And they're gorgeous. They're so sweet. So it comes with those. And then it also comes with stickers, which you can print these out at home. So I printed these out and I kind of like changed it up a little bit as far as like formatting, and then I printed and cut them using my Cricut machine. So I know not everyone can do that. You could, like if you really want to use the stickers that they include in the PDF, you could go ahead and print them on like a sticker sheet and then just cut them out. But like I have a Cricut, so that's why I did it that way. But also you can just use any stickers. They don't have to be the ones that they sent. I was just being like a little extra, you know, and my kids saw them and loved them. And so, yeah, that's what I did. So that's what comes with level K, and level 1 is exactly the same as far as like what it comes with. I'm pretty sure level 2 is coming with a couple of extra readers, but obviously I haven't seen it yet, so I don't know. So let me show you level 1 now. Level 1, I have not printed out the entire book, and that is because my son was already halfway through the old level 1, and so the scope and sequence is a little different, and the order in which they teach things is a little different, and so you can't just like switch from one to the other just like easy peasy like that. So what I ended up doing was the same thing as I did with their level K, no, sorry, their level 1 math. Instead of like having to finish the old one, what I did is I just went through the table of contents and like crossed out the things he had already learnt and picked out the lessons he had not gone through yet and just printed those. And that is what I did, the same thing here. So yeah, this is probably like half of what a typical book would be, but that is what it looks like. And then it comes with the reading booster cards level B, which is very cute. It's like a seaside theme. And then these are, I'm trying to get them all in order. I don't know that they are in order, but these are the mini books. Again, there's 20 of them. The instructions to print them are exactly the same as the level A books. And also some stickers, which he's obviously used some of these already in his booster book. So those are the 2 levels. That is what they come with. And let's just chat about the differences, because I have used level K. I started level K with my son when he was 5, and it did not go well. It was way too advanced. It just moved way too quickly. Like it started, the first couple lessons were fine, and then it very, very, very quickly got too hard, too fast. And it was kind of like the instructions of the book were kind of like, if your child is not passing these assessments, they needed to stop and slow down and just like do other activities. And I was like, well, what other activities? Like I bought a curriculum so I didn't have to think about all the other activities, you know? And so that was a little frustrating to me, because I was like, well, what else do I do? I'm like, I know I can just read to him, but I feel like he could do with just practicing the concepts he's already learned, but there wasn't really a way to do that. And then they would say like, purchase books from their library. Well, that's great, but I live in another country and it costs a lot of money to have those books sent over here, and so I didn't have the budget, and even if I did, I didn't want to, you know? And so that kind of left me in a pickle, and I was just frustrated. I felt as though there was too much writing in it. Like you had to dictate spelling words and they were expected to write them down, and for some 5-year-olds that's fine. For my 5-year-old back then, that was asking far too much, and it just ended in frustration. And so oftentimes I would modify it and just have them like dictate it back to me, like it's say it out loud instead of having to write it down. So there was a lot of modifying, a lot of stopping and starting. We didn't finish that book until the end of last year. Was it the end of last year? Yeah, it was. So he was 6. Yeah, he was 6, almost 7 by the time we finished level K. And it was fine by the time we got through it. He actually really enjoyed the end of it, but it was just too much. And then they have like, they had phonics cards, which you had to like practice, but I mean, it was boring. It was flashcards, and I just didn't really love it. I desperately wanted to love it because there are a lot of things in it that I really love, like the wholesomeness of it, the beautiful art, and the colorful pictures, and just the poetry, and all those things. I loved that, but it was just too advanced. And I know there were a lot of parents who were frustrated when they announced the change up in the levels, because they liked that it was advanced. They want their children to be ahead. And to that, I just have to say, then you can move your child ahead. The problem was, if you didn't have a child who was at that level, there was nothing to go back to. Like, there was this big gap between level K and level pre-K. Like, they needed more. And so there was no option for parents to have that. If you have an advanced or gifted child, you can move ahead. Like, there's levels to go to. If you don't, and your child is perhaps struggling or just not catching on as quickly, there was nothing to really go back to. And that's where my frustration lay. And so they claim to have made the new levels more age-appropriate and gentle, more thorough on phonics, and the lessons are shorter. And I just want to say straight out, I love the new levels. Like, I am absolutely thrilled. They have met my expectations and beyond. I feel like they meshed a whole bunch of curriculums that I enjoy, like the best parts of them, and put them all together. And I'm just so happy with it. And my kids, I've got 2 kids using it, and they're both enjoying it, and it's just really exciting to see them learn. And they're both very different in the way that they learn. They have different areas of strengths and weaknesses, and so it's really cool to see one curriculum that is working for both of them, because I didn't know if it would. And so let's just have a look at some of the things that I really like. So first of all, this is far more gentle. Like, I've noticed, I've used the level K and the level pre-K, their preschool and their level K prep a couple of times, because I've had 2 kids go through it. So I'm quite familiar with their curriculum, that comes before this. There's a lot of stuff in here I'm noticing that is kind of very much like the level K prep, or even like preschool. They're still bringing in some of those concepts into here. There's a lot, there's more lessons that go over the same things, instead of just like teaching a concept and flying past it and moving on to the next thing. There's a lot more repetition. It's a spiral curriculum. I love that, because my kids are constantly given the opportunity to review concepts that were previously taught. But I'm going to just show you what I'm really enjoying about it, and what just a standard lesson looks like. So I'm just going to pick a random one. This is level 3. And lesson 3. And at the beginning of every lesson, they're going to tell you to work on reading booster cards or books for 6 to 10 minutes. So that is this. And in here is where you are also prompted to read the mini books. So each booster card will tell you what to do. It's all very self-explanatory. There are great, thorough instructions at the beginning of this book as well. But it's all just like, it's just open and go, and I love it. So I typically set a timer for 10 minutes so that my kids have like a definitive, like, they're not like, oh, when is this going to end? They know. I just set it for 10 minutes. If they're really struggling, I'll stop it before then, but I just set it for 10 minutes and leave it at that. So here is where the actual lesson part is. So you work on these reading booster cards or books for 6 to 10 minutes. You don't have to do this at the beginning of the lesson. I sometimes do it at a different time of day. It just depends on when it works for us and our schedule. And then here, it's going over the long vowel sounds and the short vowel sounds. There's a few lessons on this. We're only a few lessons in, obviously, but it's going over that like in every lesson. Here is where they're practicing reading 2-letter words, and so they're told to like sound out each sound and then put them together. And they often ask them to like hold out this sound until they get to the next one, so that it's really working on them learning how to blend instead of going at. It's at, and so they really learn to like blend it together. So you would practice reading those together as well. And then this one had a little extra in it. So it's got some poetry, and it's also got some picture study in here. So one of the things that I wasn't expecting, which is in here, which it's not in this lesson, but is that they've got their own narrations for pictures, and so they will direct you to go to their Homeschool app, and it's just like it's just an audio, so it's not a video, but your child will sit and look at the picture. Well, Jenny Phillips, I've only had Jenny, I don't know if she does them all, but in these ones we've listened to, it's been her. She narrates the picture study for you, and I love it. My kids have loved it. So that's really cool. And then same sort of thing for poetry. I love the poetry in here. I really love poetry. My kids actually really love poetry as well. But they've got videos in the app that go with like teaching the hand motions for the poem. You don't have to use that. It's definitely optional. You can like completely move away from the screens in here. And they make that very clear. So there are other options aside from using screens. Personally, I don't mind using the app at all. It's short and sweet, and it works for us. So that is what a lesson would look like. Now down the bottom here, it also talks about bonus work and what you could do to do some more work with your child if you wanted to. It doesn't all have to be at the same time, and you don't have to do it. But then at the end of every lesson, there's also an independent section. And what I like about this in Level K is it truly is independent. Like, she can sit there at 5 years old, and I'll tell her what to do, and I can leave her to do it. And it takes her maybe like 5 minutes, if that. So it's very short, and I definitely have noticed that the lessons are more gentle and like a more age-appropriate length. Before, when I was doing it with my son, we'd kind of like get through something and be like, okay, now we need to do this. And then by the time I was like, and now we need to do this, my son would be like, oh, are we done? Like, can we stop? And yeah, so there, it is more age appropriate for sure. So Level K is beautiful. I'll try and show you a little bit of the booster cards. So what's really helpful is at the beginning, it gives you very clear instructions on what they need to have mastered before they start the course book. So it gives you, like here, they need to know their short vowels and their long vowels. They need to be able to like name all of the letters of the alphabet and if they're uppercase or lowercase. So as long as they've got these things mastered at the beginning of the booster cards, then they can move into the course book. But the pace at which you go through the course book is actually determined by the pace you go through the booster cards. So these are your priority. The course book comes second to this. So you're going to follow the instructions in here and get your child to master these booster cards. So it starts out very gentle with reading CVC words. And here is where they talk about doing that at, like holding out the vowel sound until they get to the consonant at the end. And there are also little prompts to look at their app for videos to explain concepts better, which is really great if you feel like your kid is just not getting it and you don't know how to explain it any other way. It's just lovely. So I really like that. And then once they have mastered a booster card where they can read things fairly fluently and they understand the concept, there's a place for them to put a little sticker at the bottom. And my kids are loving that. So there's that one, and I'm just going to try and find where it says here at the bottom of these ones, it's kind of like a reading fluency sheet. If you're familiar with All About Reading and their fluency sheets, this is kind of a similar concept. I feel like this curriculum is mixing together All About Reading and Abeka. That is what I feel like it's doing, in a more gentle and age-appropriate way. So yeah, here it's got like a bit of a reading fluency sheet, and at the bottom it prompts you to get your child to read one of the mini books, and it tells you which one, and so it gives you that as a guide. In the booster cards, once you've done a few of the booster cards, it also has these ones in here where it's got like a review section, so you take your child back to review those booster cards and make sure that they haven't forgotten the concepts. So again, very spiral, which is exactly what kids need at this age because they do forget things. It's not just like a one and done. There are sight words in here. So I am of the opinion that sight words aren't all evil. I think there is a school of thought where like, and they're right. It is accurate that every word can be decoded. But the thing is, you're not going to be able to teach your 5-year-old all the rules for decoding words like in their first year of school. Like that's just not possible. And so having some sight words is not a bad thing, and they can learn how to decode them as time goes on. But there are some sight words in there, but it's also very phonics based as well. So it's a mix of the two. I wouldn't say it's an Orton Gillingham way of reading at all, but it is a nice mixture of the two, and I do like it. I don't feel like it's lacking in that area. So we're really enjoying these. And then the mini books are just so sweet. They're really, really sweet. I'm going to have to do like a little bit of a pan over so you can see these. But these are all like appropriate for the phonics concepts that they are learning about in the booster cards. And that is the other thing I was going to say. So when I said that the pace of the workbook is based on these booster cards, it's because what you'll find is that you'll get to a lesson like this one, lesson 8, and it's got this little like target sign here that talks about having mastered the third booster card. So booster card number 3, your child should have mastered that many cards. They should be up to there by the time you start that lesson. So the lessons are basically to reinforce the concepts that they are learning in these booster cards. So if your child has not mastered that, don't worry about this. Put this down, put it away. It's fine. It'll wait. And just keep on practicing these every day for 6 to 10 minutes or 5 to 10 minutes, whatever it is. That is what you need to do. They've also got suggestions in here on how to practice them, so it's not just like the same rote memorization or whatever every day. There's lots of fun little activities that you can try in there. So that is level K, and I really like it. I'm going to show you level 1 because there's a couple other things that I want to talk about that they include that I really like. So let's have a look at level 1. Level 1 works exactly the same way though. And the other thing is that we're using their spelling. I haven't used spelling from The Good and the Beautiful, their incorporated spelling, because I didn't like the way it was taught, but I do like how it is taught in the new levels. So we're giving it a go, and obviously I'll report back. But so far, my kids are really enjoying it. So this is level K. This is lesson 3. And this is one, it says here that they need to have had Reading Booster 1 card mastered. And here, this is a lesson on spelling. So it's an introduction to the Unit 1 spelling words. So every unit has its own set of spelling words. And like for my son, I mean, he's in grade 2. He's doing level 1. So I do feel like it's appropriate for him to be able to write some short words at least. And so here I dictated words for him and to him, and he wrote them down at the bottom here. There's a bit of picture study. Here it says work on the reading booster cards for 5 to 10 minutes, which again is the same as level K. And here it's got your unit spelling words, which hopefully you can see there. And it will direct you what to do. So the ones he's working on at the moment are just the green ones, but they've also got some more here that you work on later on in the unit. And then here is a beautiful pie chart full of different ways to work on learning those spelling words. And it's broken up into auditory, visual, and kinesthetic learners. And so that's really great. If you know how your child learns, like their learning style, then this is a really great resource. So that is his spelling. And then there's a page with independent practice. So this is where he does his independent work, just like in level K. It's set out exactly the same way. Again, I feel like the lessons are shorter. They're more age appropriate. And it's just more gentle. Now, what I wanted to show you here is the Letter Tiles app is something that they came out with very recently to go along with their new levels. And we've used it a couple times. It's in level K and in level 1. You can see that it calls for it here. It's very clear. Letter Tiles. You do not need to use their app if you do not wish to. The app is very basic. There's no like lights and flashing and sounds. It's literally just like a pretty backdrop and letter tiles. And it's very easy to use. You click on the level you're using and go to the lesson that you're using, and it'll have it already and set up for you. So these are for the purpose of spelling. So you dictate a word to your child and then they will spell it using the letter tiles in the app. You could alternately have them write it down if you have a child who is adept and happy to write, or you could use physical letter tiles, or if you've got like alphabet, whatever, you can use all of those ways of doing it. It's just that they've set this up. It's easy. It's like my kids love it. So that's there. The one thing we have not done yet are their geography book lessons. So this is in the Homeschool app where they have like an audio book to listen to that focuses on geography. We're going to be doing that tomorrow, I think, actually. So that's going to be really exciting. And I think that is like all of the main stuff. They do talk about, again, your child is prompted to do personal or shared reading for 10 minutes or more. And that is something we try and make a habit of anyway in the evenings, especially with my son. I set a timer for 10 minutes because he's a kid who needs to know when the end is. And I'll have him read to one of us for 10 minutes. One of the things I really despised about the old level 1 was their unit review section before the assessment. I despised it because it had like a million little pieces to cut out. And so I would just skip it like altogether because it was just awful. Well, they've done away with that. Thank goodness. And so now their review and their reading assessment is very streamlined and only takes like a couple pages as opposed to tons. It's set up very similarly to the new Simply Good and Beautiful Math. If you've done their review and their assessments, it basically gives them a chance to prove that they understand the concept. If they don't, there's extra room for practice. So it's not really a test in the typical sense, but it kind of is. It's an assessment, like it shows you where they're up to. So like here you can see that page is an assessment. So yeah, there's not a ton of stuff. In fact, I don't think there's an appendix at all anymore. So there's not a whole bunch of extra loose pieces. It's simple, it's streamlined, and one of the things that I have been the most pleased with is that for the first time, I am able to have both of my children working on language arts and math at the same time. Like, I did not know that that was going to be possible, and it's because of the independent work. And I know a lot of people will be like, oh, well, I don't want to give my kids busy work. I would argue it is not busy work because it's always review of previous concepts that they have already learned. And I want my kids to be doing that. And so what I'll typically do is I'll get my older child, Jack, set up. I'll open up his math to his independent review part. And get him started on that, and then I'll go and do a math lesson with my daughter, and then we'll kind of switch it up, and I'll get my daughter to do her independent part of her language arts while I do the math lesson with my son. And so I can go back and forth, and it literally cuts the time that we're doing school in half, because I can do it at the same time with both of my children. And that is with a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old. And I feel like if you can do it at that age, that's like really good, because that is typically the ages where you have to be very hands-on, very much there. I mean, I do have to be there and focused pretty much for, that whole time. But I would say that we're getting all of their language arts, all of their math done, and handwriting usually in like an hour. Obviously, I was talking too long because my camera just like automatically shut off. But can you tell that I'm excited about this curriculum? I feel like I have been waiting for this since I started homeschooling. I'm thrilled about it. And the thing that I am the most thrilled about is that they are offering this for free. Like, when you hear about free homeschool curriculum, you're often like, is it like, what's the quality like, No, this is amazing. It is high quality, beautiful literature. I just am thrilled with it. And I'm really excited to see what level 2 is like, because that's what my son will be doing next year. And I just think if you want to give this a go ahead and look at the PDF downloads because they are free. The physical copies you do have to pay for, but if you have the means to print it out at home yourself, then it is 100% free. Everything, all of it, the booster cards, the books, the course book, everything is free. And I just know that that makes homeschooling so much more achievable for a lot of families who don't have a big budget. And for those of us who live internationally, where shipping is a major issue and just getting things into the country is really hard, especially with the current world events. And so this is just, I'm just so happy with it. Like, I'm so excited to do school with my kids every day because we all enjoy this and it's not frustration and tears. And so I've had a few people say to me, like, is it as thorough as All About Reading? Am I going to mess up my kid, basically, if I choose to do this instead of that? Here is my advice to you. If you have a child who has some kind of learning difficulty when it comes to reading, so say they have dyslexia, for instance, or you may suspect they might not even be old enough to really diagnose it yet, then sticking with something simple like All About Reading can be really great. But what I would also suggest is, because this is a free curriculum, why not download the PDF, print out a few lessons and just give it a go and see how your child does with it. If they struggle, then that's fine. You've not lost anything. You've not lost any money. And that's fine. You know, like you've literally got nothing to lose. And then you can go ahead and order something like All About Reading, which has its purpose. And I still think, even though that they've updated all of these lessons and they're beautiful and I just love them, I still think All About Reading was a really good choice for my eldest child. He still gets overwhelmed. He still has little dyslexic tendencies here and there. It has improved, but now that I have another child to compare him to, I can see more obviously where the struggles are, where my other child picks up things like it's just not even an issue. And so All About Reading definitely has its place, and I think it is a fabulous program. And so I do recommend that. If you have a child that has no known issues with reading or anything like that, then go for it. Give it a go. See if you love it. We just really are, and I'm really excited to try it all out with my next child and my last. I'm like so sad. It's my last baby who will be doing preschool and all that, and I feel like this day has come way too quickly. I won't be starting preschool with her until next year, but it's just time flies, you know. So those are all my very excited and jumbly thoughts on the new language arts levels from the good and the beautiful. If you have questions for me, because I know there's probably going to be some of you who do, leave them down in the comments below and I'll do my very best to answer. And please also just be aware, we've obviously only been using this for a very short amount of time because it's only just been released. But so far, these are my thoughts on it. They might change over the course of the year. So far, this is what I think about it, and I'm comparing to the previous levels, so just bear that in mind. Like, I've used the previous levels. I know the things I didn't really enjoy about them, speaking of which, that is what I forgot. One of the biggest frustrations with parents who were using the previous levels was that in the mini books in level K, they would introduce words and phonics that children hadn't been taught yet, and I cannot even tell you the level of frustration my son felt about that, and I did too. That no longer exists in the new levels. That is gone. Everything is just seamless and beautiful and works together, and it's just in order, which my type A brain really enjoys. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it was helpful and insightful, and I'm just wishing all of you the best who are going to be starting out your homeschool very soon, to the newbies who are coming along, and for those of you who are planning for the next year. It's very exciting. I'm still here trucking along through the year because our year starts in February, not mid-year like the US and many other places. But it's contagious to see all the excitement that happens this time of year. So thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.
What if the world had more of your smile? What if the wind could spread your love? What if your sweetness could reach everyone?